In April 1986, the original plan for a strike on Libya was built on a straight line. The mission required American bombers stationed in the UK to fly directly south across the English Channel, straight down through France, and over the Mediterranean to reach their targets. But the French government refused to allow American planes into their airspace, which shattered those plans. Denied the direct route, the Air Force had to plot a new course entirely around the Iberian Peninsula. This detour added a staggering 2,600 miles to the round trip. The Air Force was forced into a geographic bottleneck. To reach the Mediterranean, the aircraft had to hug the extreme outer edge of the European continent, navigating a narrow corridor over the Atlantic and through the Strait of Gibraltar. A single diplomatic rejection transformed a standard bombing run into a logistical marathon. The Air Force had to rewrite its entire tactical approach to account for the massive increase in flight time and fuel. Retreating from the mission was not an option for the White House. Throughout the mid-1980s, Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi was actively directing a campaign of state-sponsored terrorism against Western targets. The attacks were escalating and increasingly targeting civilians. Following the 1983 Beirut bombings, the hijacking of the cruise ship Achille Lauro in late 1985 resulted in the murder of an American citizen, followed months later by a bombing at a Berlin nightclub that killed 3 more. Gaddafi publicly claimed he would continue exporting violence to the West. This wave of civilian deaths made a military response, Operation El Dorado Canyon, a political necessity, regardless of the distance handicap the bombers now faced. While the Air Force grappled with European airspace, the U.S. Navy was already on station. A massive carrier strike group was anchored in the Mediterranean, a short flight from the Libyan coast. Massive ships like the USS Coral Sea and the USS America provided what military planners call territorial independence. Essentially, these carriers function as mobile pieces of American soil. Because they operate in international waters, the Navy didn't need diplomatic approval to launch its aircraft. While the Air Force was paralyzed by overflight denials, the Navy could launch FA-18s and A-6 Intruders at a moment's notice. The fleet's presence proved a massive strategic advantage. By positioning sovereign airstrips in international waters, the U.S. could bypass the political roadblocks that were currently slowing down land-based forces. 24 Air Force F-111 Aardvark bombers launched from the UK to begin their 3,500-mile detour into the dark. This chart tracks fuel consumption against the total distance of the flight path. The sharp drops indicate points where the aircraft would fall out of the sky without immediate intervention. To survive the 13-hour trip, Aardvarks required tankers at precise intervals along the route. Connecting a bomber to a tanker boom is difficult enough in daylight. These crews had to execute at least 7 perfect mid-air refuelings while flying in total darkness. The holiday timing of the mission added more strain. Units had to pull senior officers and planners back to duty on short notice. In one case, a vital electronics warfare specialist had to be pulled from leave and rushed to the mission to manage the complex avionics required for the strike. Stretching the flight path exponentially increased the points of failure. Every hour in the air multiplied the risks of mechanical breakdown, pilot fatigue, or a missed refueling connection before a single bomb was even dropped. As the bombers closed in on Libya's heavily defended coastline, they were shielded by an essential, unarmed escort, the EF-111A Raven. This schematic cross-section shows the engineering behind the Aardvark. Designers removed the weapons bay entirely to fit 6,000 pounds of jamming equipment, including transmitters in a 16-foot ventral radome and receivers in a specialized fin-tip pod. The Raven's job was to fly ahead into enemy airspace and physically scramble Libyan radar systems. It used electronic noise to blind surface-to-air missile batteries that were tracking the incoming strike packages. Surviving a modern integrated air defense system requires sacrificing explosives for electronic superiority. This made the unarmed Raven the mission's most vital protection. On April 15, 1986, months of planning came to a head. Air Force bombers and Navy carrier jets arrived over their targets at the exact same moment. They struck despite heavy anti-aircraft fire, hitting Libyan airfields, military barracks, and training camps in Tripoli and Benghazi. But the mission carried a steep price. One F-111 crew was killed in action, And in a grim irony, an errant American bomb missed its target and hit the French embassy, the very nation that had denied the plane's overflight rights weeks earlier. The tactical success of the operation was real, but it was complicated by friendly fire errors and the loss of 2 aviators. The legacy of the Raven continued into the next decade. During Desert Storm, an unarmed Raven managed to maneuver an Iraqi Mirage fighter into the ground, achieving an aerial victory without firing a single shot. Following the Libyan raid, the Pentagon released the official flight map of El Dorado Canyon, showing the world the unprecedented distance the Air Force had covered to reach its target. That map was a public demonstration of logistical reach. It showed that striking a target thousands of miles away requires the specialized ability to turn off an enemy's air defenses before the first strike reaches the shore. Operation El Dorado Canyon showed that the future of power projection would be built on borderless naval assets and electronic dominance, the 2 critical elements that allowed a strike to succeed against a 3,500-mile disadvantage.